Howdy, folks. Welcome back to 20th Century Adventures. I'm Nathan Logston, and today we are going to take a foraging trek in the woods. Now, not everything that I do has to involve weapons and hunting. If you've watched my channel, you've seen that, I like to do a lot of different things. Hunting is only a part of it. But I also enjoy the woods in general. And there's lots of reasons why you would want to go out into the woods potentially without the intention of hunting. For one thing, I haven't brought a rifle with me. It's one less thing to carry, one less thing to worry about. It is squirrel season and turkey season right now, and just in walking out to the woods, I saw a bunch of squirrels and some turkey sign. So maybe I should have brought a gun, but that's really not why I'm here. The purpose for why I'm here is partly to check on the woods. Something I do every year around this time. It's a good opportunity. We've already had 3 nights with a good freeze, so the ticks have knocked back considerably. Not worried about ticks and chiggers really. So it's a good time to get into the woods without worrying about those things. It's cooler out, so I'm not going to sweat too much. I'm not going to get covered in whatever fluff the woods has to offer. It's a little harder to walk quietly because it's so dry. The leaves are real crunchy. But I am wearing my new Logston & Co. Larigan moccasins, which makes me a little bit quieter. And I've incorporated a little bit of military surplus gear along with civilian equipment as well. Some of the more practical things that we see people wearing historically in photographs is the military breeches. We see civilian ones as well. Breeches were just really popular in this period for all sorts of outdoor activities. And the military ones by the 20s would have been available left over from World War One. And I'm also wearing the World War One puttees, the wool wraps around the legs. That's mainly to create a meld between the moccasins and the upper part of the breeches. It covers where the breeches lace up on the calves. It hopefully will keep briars and stuff from getting all the way to my legs as I walk through. The only thing I'm worried about is picking up a lot of stick tights. It's that time of year when the stick tights are everywhere, and these being wool, I'm sure they're going to collect quite a bit. So we'll see how that goes. I'm wearing a civilian shirt. This is a shirt that is available from Logston & Co., but it's also typical of a lot of sportsman shirts that were offered by all sorts of catalogs, such as Abercrombie and Fitch and Sears and lots of other places, offered these sorts of just everyday cotton hunting shirts. And I've got my regular civilian jacket on, but I am wearing the military campaign hat. The campaign hat shows up a lot in later photographs, and it's something that we see quite frequently. So it's a very practical hat. I really like this hat for woods purposes. I wear it a lot when I'm hunting and doing other things. So that's what I've got. I'm carrying a pack basket that is mostly empty. Now it does end up being a lot of weight because I've also got my camera gear in there. That's something that historically people didn't have to worry about. But since I'm doing these videos for you, we have to carry the camera gear around. So mainly I'm carrying the camera gear in it. But I do have a few other individual things. I've got a private purchase canteen. This is the From What Price Glory. This is the private purchase canteen cover with an original World War I canteen in it. And then I've got a haversack that I brought along just in case I want to leave the pack basket behind, put it by a tree where I know I'll come back to it. And that way I'm not carrying as much weight all the time. If I want to go up a hill or something, I can take this to gather whatever I might find in the woods. And then I also have my belt axe down in here. Now this is a brand new belt axe I just got. It was made for me by Mick Kane, who is a fantastic blacksmith. And I haven't made a sheath for it yet, so I've just got it wrapped in leather to prevent cutting myself when I'm digging in the basket. But this thing is amazing. This is based on the one that Horace Kephart recommends carrying. although it's a little bit lighter than his. Mick really knows his craft, and he made this high carbon steel blade. It's got a hammer pole on the back. I love having a hammer pole on the back of a belt axe. It really makes a difference because then you have both a camp axe or hatchet. You also have a hammer with you all the time, and you have no idea how often that comes in handy. If I'm trying to crack open some hickory nuts, or if I'm trying to put up a tarp shelter and I need to hammer in a wooden tent stake that I made, that's what I'll use that for. If you catch a rabbit in a snare and it's not dead yet, well, you can smack him with the back of that, and that takes care of it. So there's lots of great reasons to have that. Nessmuk recommends carrying a double bit axe and having one side shaped to a chisel point for doing hard chopping, and the other side being razor sharp that you can use for fleshing a hide or shaving bark off of a stick or something like that. And I see the value in that, but it also makes me nervous to have a blade pointed at me when I'm doing anything. So that's why I tend to shy away from double bit blades as much. So I wanted the Kephart style, and Mick made a great version here, and I will put his contact info in the description on this video. So if you decide you want to get you one of these, I highly recommend it. He is a master bladesmith. So anyway, the first thing that I'm going to do now that I'm out here is I'm going to cut myself a walking stick. And I've got a lot of hickory in this forest. This is my woods. And part of what I do when I come out here is I'm trying to evaluate the health of the forest in general. It's something that foresters would have done in the 1920s, in the early age of forestry. And so I'm kind of looking to see what trees are needing to be harvested in the coming year, and what trees might need a little help along the way, trying to deal with invasives, that sort of thing. It's a good opportunity for me to get in the woods and see what's going on before the leaves have completely dropped off. And we also, in this woods, we have an overabundance of hickory. And so part of what I try to do is figure out which hickories are going to get culled, because I want to keep some for mass production and for hickory nuts, which are great for all kinds of purposes. But too many hickories chokes out the more valuable oaks and maples and things like that. So I kind of want to keep an eye on making sure that not too much hickory grows. Now, I'm going to seek out a hickory sapling, and I'm going to cut my walking stick out of that, because I don't need any more hickory saplings at this point. So I'm more than happy to take out any small hickories that I find. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. All right, so I didn't find hickory that I liked, but I did find this beech, and I've got way too many of those too, and they're not an overly valuable tree either. So beech it was. This one, I think, will afford me just the right thickness and weight that I want to walk through the woods with. And this thing cut through it pretty well. There. I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, that'll come in handy. Now we'll wrap this back up and we'll get on our way. So basically, we're going to walk through here and we're going to try to see what sort of bounty the forest has to offer us without actually hunting. Alright, so now we're going to walk through the forest and we're going to see what bounty it has to provide without actually hunting, and take a look at the trees and see what needs to be improved for the future. Now I got a late start this morning. I kind of had to do some farm chores, and so it's already getting warm, so I'm going to go ahead and take the jacket off. That'll make things a little easier. I'll just stick that in the pack basket. I got plenty of room in the pack basket for anything that I might pick up along the way. So let's go for a walk. So right off the bat, it's pretty obvious that there's some trees along the trail here that have died, and those are potentially going to be problem trees. Some of them are going to fall in the path of the trail, and if myself or one of my family members was walking down the trail when that happened, it could be dangerous, even deadly. So those are things I definitely want to deal with this winter, and those will get turned into firewood unless they're good enough to get boards out of, which most of these are not. Here we've got what I believe is an ash tree that has succumbed to the emerald ash borer, probably. So what we would do with something like this is either use the axe, or I'm going to try and use my knife just so I don't have to dig the axe back out. And we would make a blaze mark on that tree. This one's not going to show up real well because it's already rotten underneath the bark. But if that was a younger, maybe healthier tree, it would show a big white spot where that bark was taken away from the meat of the tree. So that's one way that I like to mark things. It's the way that it was done 100 years ago when they were doing forestry, conservation, things like that out here. So this is a age-old way of marking a tree, is by putting a blaze mark on it. Nowadays it's often easier to use spray paint, and you'll see that when people are getting ready to log a piece of land, you'll see trees with orange or green or yellow paint on the tree, and that marks that that tree is meant to be cut. And sometimes I do that as well if I'm not concerned about trying to stay historically accurate. So that's a blaze mark. So I've got a pretty nice stand of cedars back here on the edge of the field. And most people would say, oh, take out cedars, they're a scrub tree. But I really like working with cedar wood, and the bushiness of the cedar provides nice cover for animals, for deer. So I'm going to leave all of this, and hopefully it'll be something I can harvest someday. Well, that was quite a haul, but I made it up on top of the bluff here. This is one of my favorite places to go, especially as the leaves start to come off. You can really see off in the distance. I don't know how well it comes through the camera, but there's a lot of depth here that's really quite pretty. And it's a good place to reflect and just enjoy nature for a minute or two. However, it is getting a little warm now, and it's a good time to stop, maybe roll the sleeves up a bit, because it's toasty all of a sudden. That's the thing about October, is you never really know what it's going to be throughout the day. It can start out below freezing and be quite warm by later in the day. So is what it is. Now, we haven't had a lot of rain here lately. Everything's really dry. So I'm actually surprised that we're not under a fire ban, but I'm sure we will be soon. We've only had maybe 2 inches of rain, and that was all in the course of 3 days, about maybe 3 weeks ago. So not a lot of rain. It's really hard. You can't see any animal tracks in the dirt. Usually I like to kind of get an idea of where the deer are moving and what's walking through, and there's none of that right now. The ground is just dry as can be, and there's not any imprint being left behind by anything. So I don't know, we'll continue to walk. I was expecting to see some mushrooms. There's usually lion's mane, chicken of the woods, puffballs. They're usually available this time of year, and I haven't seen much of anything, so I think it's just too dry. But we'll keep looking. This is one of those moments where you just can't help but marvel at nature. This is a massive beech tree. It's hard to tell on the camera, but I think at the base it's got to be at least 6 feet wide. And then what's equally impressive are these grapevines that are growing up it. I bet these grapevines are probably 100 years old. They are the thickest grapevines I've ever seen. Some of them are like over 6 inches in diameter. And it's just really amazing to think that something has sat out here and grown virtually untouched all this time. It's awfully pretty. Now, this right here is the sort of thing that we get really excited about and want to see at this time of the year in mid-October. So this is a deer scrape, deer rub, where he's been rubbing his antlers on this beech tree here, and that's a really magnificent scrape. Looks like a pretty good set of sharp antlers there. So I don't see any evidence where he's pawed at the ground here or anything like that, but it does look like he was actually beefy enough to break off. This is a beech tree, and this is a beech branch that's been recently broken off and is laying here withered. I'm not sure exactly where it came off of, but it was somewhere. Oh, I think it was right here, actually. Yeah, you can see where it was right there. So he broke that off with his antlers as he was rubbing on it. So hopefully we'll see him again in a little while. So here's something that we're dealing with a lot in this part of the country right now. This is not a early 20th century problem, it's a 21st century problem, but similar problems were happening in the early 20th century. This we call sudden oak death, and it's where the white oaks and the red oaks have just been inexplicably dying, and we don't really know why. So they're trying to figure that out, but historically, the Dutch elm disease and the the chestnut blight, the American chestnut blight, were wiping out the American chestnuts and the elm trees all across the United States in the 1920s and 30s. So it's still kind of a period problem, even though it's a different tree having it. So I had to go where I could find some damp ground to even see any tracks. The pond is very low from the lack of rain, lowest I've ever seen it. But you can see some deer tracks right there, and the grass is all mashed down. They've been coming down to drink. Sounds like the neighbor is sighting in his rifle for deer season. There's definitely been a lot of acorn production, a lot of hickory nuts on the ground, although I haven't found any worth picking up. The persimmons have been completely decimated. They must have dropped early, and there's a couple of persimmon trees around the pond here, but I can't find anything other than a few dried up ones. So I was hoping to catch some persimmons, but that's not going to happen either this time. The deer beat me to the good ones. Now, a few weeks ago, I did pick a couple of puffball mushrooms in this general vicinity, and there's still a few here, but it looks like they're too far gone now to eat. So what you look for is you look for these big ball-like white things. See, this is one that's already gone to sporing. See, that's the spore coming out of that. So hopefully these will spore and they'll grow more puffballs in the area. This one, yeah, this one's too far gone too. So when these are ripe, when you want to eat them, is when they're white and you cut them open, and they don't do that. You want them to be completely white inside. If they have any dark coloring at all, you don't want to eat them. Of course, these are going to spore. That's what you're seeing coming out there. Looks like smoke. That's the spore of the mushroom. So these spores will sit in the ground and they'll wait for an ideal situation to sprout again. Usually it's when you have a lot of warm sunny days right after a whole lot of rain in the fall. Usually early October. Late September, early October is ideal for finding puffball mushrooms, and they're really good. You can fry them. Like I said, a few weeks ago, I found some, sliced them up, sautéed them with onions and garlic. It was really good. Something else that I've heard is really good is to batter and fry them, kind of like little chicken nugget ideas. You know, just puffball nuggets, and that's supposed to be really good. I haven't had a chance to try that, so. I kept meaning to get down here and look again to see if there were more, and I've been busy and haven't had a chance to see if there were any more. And obviously there were, but they're too far gone now. So that's what you're looking for, though. But again, you want them to be white, and when you cut them open or break them open inside, they're perfectly white inside, and that's when they're good to eat. Otherwise, they're not good to eat. So I have some hazelnut bushes planted down here, and they're mainly to attract the deer, but I'm hoping to get some hazelnuts off of them someday. And they're still rather young, but this is something I've never seen before, is at least on these. I have at other places that I've had them. But those little pods right there, they kind of look like tight little pine cones. Those are the catkins, and they're the bud that will become the bloom of the hazelnut bush. So this indicates that we will probably get a hazelnut harvest next year. Won't be much because there's not a whole lot of these, but I'm seeing them on some of the trees, and or the bushes rather, and so that tells us that there will be hazelnuts next year of some sort. Here's something of a little bit of value. So this cedar tree here, eastern red cedar, is loaded with berries. And if you collect these berries, they can be used as a seasoning or spice for a variety of things. It works well with certain meat dishes, and you can use it to make root beer. It gives you that kind of sarsaparilla flavor. And it can be added to gin, it can be added to wines. So that's something that's worth gathering a little bit of if you plan on doing any of those sorts of things. So here's an opportunity for a little bit of gathering. This is a shagbark hickory tree, and the squirrels and the deer have beat us to most of them. But if you look around the base, you should be able to find hickory nuts. Here's one that is an empty shell that the squirrels have eaten up. They have these green husks on them when they first drop. Those usually bust when they fall. And there's a little pig head shaped nut inside. And I swear I just saw one. There's one. So here's what pops out. And this one's got a wormhole in it, so it's not going to be any good. You're fighting a lot of wildlife for these. So if you can find enough of them, the hickory nut pie is pretty darn good. So I did luck out and find a few hickory nuts that didn't look like they had bugs in them. So we'll take a look here and see if they're any good. So you just give them a little pop and break them open. And that one's all dried and withered. That one's no good. Hard to find good ones. A lot of times the squirrels and the deer eat them up. You gotta almost get them when they first fall, and I'm a little late getting out here on these. Oh look, here's a good one. Look at that. Nice inside. There's little worms that attack these. They'll bore holes in the side of the nut, and then you lose everything inside of it. I like the precision of this hammer pole. I can really crack the nut without cracking my fingers too badly. It's got those nice little corners. Alright, so almost helps to have a pick to do this. I didn't bring one. But that's what you're going after, is the nice meaty nut inside. Oh man, that is good. It just tastes like the woods right there. Wish I had enough of these to make a pie, because that would be great. Tastes a lot like pecans. You can pretty much always find something worth having in a pine thicket. All you gotta do is find an old rotten pine log and start working your way either where there's branches, where there's going to be a knot, or down at the base. We're going to look at the base of this one and see what we can find. But what we're looking for is the real waxy heartwood of the tree, of the pine tree. So let's see what we got in here. Let's see if there's anything good. So that's a little bit of it right there. I think there's going to be some in here. Just got to find the harder spots. So you're looking for places where the axe hits harder, doesn't just go through all the soft junk, and where it sticks a little bit. That's where we're going to find it. All right, there's some. So what you're looking for is these areas where it's just got a sheen, almost looks like bacon. There's white and there's red streaks in there, and that's full of resin. That's you can see how it kind of peels away. That's what you're looking for. Now this stuff is soaking wet, so it needs to thoroughly dry out before it can be used. But that is called fatwood, and that's what you want to carry a little bit of in your pack, because that will, when it's dry, that will light with a match. I mean, it's just, if you get a flame, use your flint and steel kit or a match or a lighter or whatever. You light that and it'll burn. It'll kind of crackle as that stuff, that resin in there burns, and it's really handy for starting fires, for getting your campfire going. Like that. That's what we're looking for right there. So there's a whole run of it right there. And that's almost to the core of the log. Right there. That's stuff worth having right there. I'll take these pieces back with me and we'll dry them out, and that'll go into the camping kit. Always something to find in the woods. Well, that was a fun little hike. Somewhere along the way, probably when I got excited over the deer scrape, I set down my handy walking stick and didn't notice it again until I was climbing up the hill to come back home. So yeah, these things happen. Sometimes you get excited in the woods. So altogether, we didn't really manage to gather much because it's kind of late in the season. I guess the dryness of the year, the fact that we haven't had any rain for the better part of 3 months, means that these things went faster than they normally do. Usually by this time of year there's persimmons to pick up and there's plenty of nuts to pick up, and it looks like it all came early this year, and the critters have beaten me to most of it. So that happens, and at least we did get some puffballs earlier in the year, but not any available right now. As expected, the puttees did pick up quite a bit of stick tights and cockleburs, but not as bad as I was afraid they would. And it looks like for the most part they'll brush off. There's a few that are sticking, but most of them are going to brush off pretty easily. At least the small burrs anyway. So the moccasins held up real well. You can tell by the dust on them that I put some miles on them. And the soles still look great. I did end up, I had to cross gravel a couple of times, and I had to cross pavement once in the course of my travels, which I always say don't walk on any sort of pavement or gravel with these because they're not made for it, and it's true, they're not. But if you do have to, try to minimize how much of that you do, and don't scuff your feet. You know, pick your feet up when you walk across those hard surfaces, so you don't put gouges in the bottom of them. But really, I'm thoroughly impressed. This is the first time I've actually worn these. I did wear the prototypes for a little bit, but just around the house, and this is the first time that I've gone through the woods in these, and really quite pleased with them. They held up remarkably well. I didn't have a lot of, there were a couple times I stepped on a big rock and I was like, oh, that's, you know, kind of sharp, but it didn't hurt, it just, I felt it. But most of the little stuff, gravel and things like that, I didn't even feel. I am used to having arch supports in my shoe, and these, I didn't put the arch supports in these, and I probably should have, because now I can feel that my arch is sore. but that's just from not wearing the arch supports, because I normally do. But otherwise, man, these have been just awesome. And when I put them on, now this was my actual size. I know a lot of people have had some issues with, you know, ordering their size and it not fitting. They are narrow. They're supposed to be an E width, but they're maybe a little slightly narrower than an E width. But they stretch a lot because it's oil tan leather. And when I first put them on, they were snug. It wasn't exactly uncomfortable. But if I was buying regular modern shoes, I would say, oh, these are going to give me blisters, these are too tight. But knowing what I know about oil tan leather, I said, hey, I'm gonna try this. Well, about 15 minutes into the hike, they had already stretched enough that they were much more comfortable, and now they fit like a sock. They are super comfortable, feel great, plenty of movement inside of them. And this is my actual size. Now, I don't have real wide feet. I've got kind of average width feet, so if you've got wide feet, this may not work for you. But man, I can really recommend these for being in the woods. They are just awesome. I'm really gonna enjoy using these this winter, and I think I'm gonna probably get a bigger pair to put a thick felt liner in when I can find some felt, because those will be real nice for deer hunting. So they're a lot quieter than the big boots, and they actually have a lot more grip. I was surprised because I've worn the sportsman boots here in the woods a lot, and areas where I would normally slip a little bit on dry leaves in the sportsman boots, I didn't slip at all in these. So so these are definitely my new favorite 20th century hunting boot, and you can get these on our website at logsandco.com, and the puttees as well. Those are brand new as well, so check that out. And pants from What Price Glory, although we do have some civilian breeches that are coming soon, so if you want something that's not a military option, those will be hopefully available before Christmas. And then the shirt from Logs & Co. as well, and then the hat. This might have come from What Price Glory. If not, I think even Amazon has these hats available. It's just a World War I, World War II military campaign hat. So anyway, glad you guys came along with me on this. Looking forward to deer season right around the corner. So thank you guys for watching. Please give me a like and subscribe, and we'll see you down the road.